PR.
Bishop, we back.
We
back. Breath and Bones is back. Bishop, I got to tell you, we just, a couple of weeks ago, we came off of Ruach, and I don't mean this wrong, but we got a lot of people at Ruach that come from the state of Alabama.
It's a miracle they came from Alabama after they heard the predictions I gave about what we were going to do to Alabama.
When you predicted Tennessee was going to beat Alabama, was that prophecy or was that hoping?
I felt an unction, but I wasn't going to say it was the Lord. I'm very hesitant to do that, but wisdom is justified by her children, and that looked like a very wise prediction at this point. So
At this point,
we did. I was actually at the game, Rich.
I saw that.
I took the boys to. It was 129 decibels. 129 decibels. I was there when Will Hoyt kicked the field goal and beat Florida. I thought that was the loudest I'd ever heard in my life, and it was. But this game was louder. The Alabama game was louder. It was mind-boggling how loud it was. I would not have been able to quarterback if I was the quarterback of Alabama. I'd have called a timeout, went and sat on the bench, which is essentially what he did because he was useless the last 7 minutes of the game.
All right, let me redirect you before we get in a lot of trouble. I will say this, the 128 decibels, I think, is the loudest recorded in Tennessee football history.
That's what I was told.
But I will say this, and some of you pastors need to hear me on this. Sister Yeye calls me every week and says it's 128 decibels in our church during worship because we're not singing How Great Thou Art, and we might be singing Maverick City, and she doesn't like Maverick City. So she's telling me that it's way too loud. Can I get an amen from all the preachers out there?
Amen.
Chad Madden is over here. He's got both hands
Chad's
raised.
Receiving an offering for Rich right now.
I do get the too loud in here, like nobody else has ever gotten that. But yeah, we're a couple weeks removed from Ruach, and man, I thought it was the best one ever.
I thought that. I always hold my tongue on those things because you want to believe things get better with time, but even arbitrarily, people just texting me and call me the week after. They blew my phone up, really saying this was next level, and everything was next level. The production of it, the streamlined way we got everybody in. We're just learning as we go. I mean, I think that's a part of this is, you got a conference with a couple thousand people, and you're figuring out how to do it. You're figuring how do you host a couple thousand people and do your best to do it with excellence, but also have a conference where you host the presence of God, and all that is not mutually exclusive. It all actually goes together, and finding out how to do that. I think the most important thing for us is that we keep the priority of the conference what we've allowed that to be, and not change the priority of the conference. And we're grateful for all of our sponsors and all of the people who register and but it's never been about how do you make the most money. It's never been about how do you get the biggest names. It's always been about how do we encounter and equip. How do you encounter the presence of God and equip your leaders to take what God's called them to do to the next level? And the better we get at that, the better the conference becomes. So I thought breakouts were next level. I thought all of our sessions, plenary sessions and clinicians, we had, I don't even know how many came to the music director thing. It was like full. And so got great feedback on all of it. And then the night sessions and the day generals were just nuts. I mean, they were really amazing. So
I thought the self-proclaimed, I want to try to remember how he described himself. He's from Seattle. So I think he said he was fearful that they thought he was from Antifa, which he was with us in Atlanta on Monday a couple weeks ago at the National Faith Advisory Board. Russell Johnson shows up, and he said, people think I look like Antifa, but I'm trying to just minister to my people. And then we had him back on that following Sunday. Yeah. I thought he added a lot to the conference.
He did, and that's part of my heart and part of the heart of the Ruach Global Network. I am not a monolithic, homogenous. Everybody looks the same, preaches the same. Obviously, you know me. I'm an antiquated artifact. I'm a dinosaur. I'm Pentecostal. I'm down in my core. I'm an old-fashioned Pentecostal. But my mind and the leadership and the recognition that God is moving in places and among people, that that are they have in some way, well, not in some way, they have the same value system, but their presentation and the delivery system and even the method in which they communicate it is a very different system. And if you and I if we don't see the church, and particularly the Pentecostal church, if the Pentecostal church doesn't step outside of itself and start building network and really getting into streams and allowing people to get into their stream, we can get very, very to ourselves very quickly. And I just never want to be that. I mean, we had, he's Pentecostal, he's Spirit-filled, but Dino's very different than I am. As you said, Russell Johnson, very different than even the rest of the preachers. This was just another chance for God to put a highlight on streams coming together. And I thought Russell Johnson preached one of the finest, most powerful messages I've ever heard preached at Ruach. He melted the building. He preached 20 minutes, and we were all standing up running, and he hadn't even started yet. Then he said, "Open your Bible." We were like, "What the heck was that?"
Yeah.
If that ain't your sermon, what was that?
Yeah, he said, "Open your book to Acts."
Open your Bible to the book,
what did you just preach?
The book of Acts. I said, "You just preached from Genesis to Revelation. This is a letdown." But it wasn't a letdown. It was powerful. It was glorious. And again, you're right. It was just streams coming together, and that's the mantra. That's just the heart of Ruach. It's a little bit of, it's all about Jesus, and it's all Spirit empowered, but it's an appreciation for the different methods and the different ministries, the different voices that are in the kingdom right now. And I just believe that's to God be the glory. It's the stroke of the kingdom, and that's how we roll.
Well, I think from my perspective, and this was year 11, we started working on this 12 years ago, but I think what I've always respected about the assimilation of speakers and even worship leaders is the diversity. Yeah. It's multicultural, it's multi-generational. Sure. You always honor the generals that have gone before us, and you do a great job of bringing in the new voices. I knew who Russell Johnson was. My daughter was off the chain crazy when she heard of Russell Johnson, and then I told her she found him online.
Isn't that remarkable?
And then she heard him at ARC, and then she heard him at Forward, and then I said, by the way, he's coming to Ruach. So she was freaking out, but a lot of our people had not heard.
And he's coming back to Wild Ones.
Yeah.
He's coming back to Wild Ones.
Which, by the way, if you haven't got your youth group in Wild Ones, you have got to get in because it's filling up fast. That's coming in February, and we'll get something on the screen that will tell you how to register for that. But Wild Ones is our youth conference. Many of you have already brought your youth to that, coming in February. And Russell Johnson will be there. Kevin Wallace is speaking. Devin Wallace is speaking. Chris Estrada is speaking.
It's going to be powerful.
It's going to be incredible. You do not want to miss that. But get your registration and get your youth groups activated. Now's a great time to get that going in the month of November. But I thought from my perspective too, I think we're getting better at the equip. I think we've always, we focus on the encounter. We're an encounter in church. Sure. I think you've said that from day one.
Right.
And I think, but I will say this, and I won't use his name, but one of the gentlemen that was there sat on the front row with me. He said, "I go to conferences every week, all over the country." Yeah. And he said, "I've never felt the presence of God and never been as comfortable in the presence of God as I am at Ruach."
Isn't that amazing?
And this was his first year here.
Well, to God be the glory. You know what it is too, Rich? I think there's a hunger for the pure, real thing, authentic. I don't know when it became apropos or where we started. We if we're not careful, we know people are hungry for the presence of God, but if we really don't allow God's presence to move in, we can start trying to create atmospheres ourselves and manipulate things and make things. And I think that's what he was saying because I heard the same thing. He essentially told me the same thing, I think. And I think what I heard when he was saying that to me was when he said I felt more comfortable and there's a sense of, we're not going to crank this up and make this happen. If God doesn't show up, and I've told the Lord that over the years, if you don't show up, this is futile. There is no reason in our gathering. And so we just continue to press and to reach for him, and he continues. I told somebody this past week, he didn't have to come, but he did.
Yeah. And
when he came and when he comes, we just want him to stay a while.
Yeah.
And, and so I don't know. I mean, it was glorious. The services were powerful, but to your point, the equipping piece was a next level this time, and we're going to continue to hone in on that. And we're going to continue to expand beyond the 3-day conference to 1 days and give people an opportunity to even be, strengthened, encouraged, enhance their ministries even to another level as we keep growing this network.
So if you're a pastor and you have a church, we are looking at 1 days. We do have 3 sites that we're considering right now. We probably could do up to 5 or 6 1 days, maybe an every other month type thing. So if you have a great facility with good sound and lights and the ability to host an event like that, if you'll email Kaylee at the network and offer your facility, it's something that we would probably try to do. We might even try to squeeze PK in to preach on a Wednesday night, stay over and do a Thursday 1 day. I'm not promising that. I can't commit him.
We'll try. We'll do it our very best.
We'll try.
Yeah,
you heard that. We will
we'll
try.
give it our very best. That's what we're trying to do this year.
So we're working on that. But and those of you that are not network related at this point in time, you can click on the screen and obviously become a part of the network from the teaser off the social media.
Rich, let me piggyback on that real quick. What I saw happen this week as well are people that are part of our network family connect with ministries that are not part of our network and just say everybody needs a family to belong to. And I think that's important. I want to encourage all the network family. And by now, you know this, with a gift of any size every month, we're not going after resource money. I mean, we're thankful for partners and what they allow us and help us to get done. But the bottom line is our motive is really encouraging, connecting, resourcing, and strengthening the body and the fivefold and even kingdom leaders as well. And so if you know people, I just met a man at this faith thing we were at in Atlanta together yesterday, or a couple days ago. And this guy sitting next to me is a Pentecostal. He's an independent Pentecostal. He has no covering, no church, no family, no friends, nothing. He said, I'm 65 years old and I'm trying to find somebody to get connected to. Runs a couple hundred people, and he's 45 minutes from us. And I say, you need to come check out the network. Just come check it out. So he's already checked out the network, texts me, and I'm sure he's going to jump in at some point. I just think we need to encourage our partners. If you know people in ministry that feel isolated, alone, they don't have resources, they don't have friends or connections or something connected to connect to give life, just mention it to them, point them in that direction. I think there are people who would say, man, I didn't know this was possible. I didn't know it was available. And we're seeing that happen, and we're excited about it.
Well, and I'll say this because I just read a blog yesterday. It's interesting that you brought that up. By the way, most of this is unscripted, if you can't tell. I was reading yesterday that the number one failure in ministry is not sexual misconduct. It's not financial misconduct. It's the fact that the foundation was never laid for accountability and a covering.
Wow.
That the churches and pastors that fail to start out with a covering and an accountability. 100%. They don't have a board. They don't have trustees. 100%. They don't have accountability. They just they're saying, and you know what most of them say? We're too small for that.
Wow.
That you're not too small.
No.
If you run 10 people, you got 10 sheep, and you need a covering, right. And you need to be accountable.
That's so true, bro.
If you run 10,000, you need even more of a covering and more accountability. But,
100%.
But the number one failure was a lack of setting up a structure that said, I am accountable to someone or some board of directors.
Yeah.
So, we do provide that. I get email. I got a bunch of emails yesterday just asking, what does that look like? How should I set up? Do I have deacons? Do I have elders? Well, I don't care what you call them. You just need somebody that's praying for you that has oversight that says, don't spend that money there. That's not wise. One of our financial folks was just telling us about one of the churches that they lost because the wardrobe line item for the pastor in their budget exceeded their monthly income.
It's crazy.
And I said, how does that even happen? It happens because there's not covering and accountability.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I have always appreciated and wanted in my life was that layer of accountability, even in our own personal thing. In our own church context here, I've always believed that the pastor should have people who want to advance the kingdom in leadership with him, but people who also recognize we have to make sure we cover the pastor and the pastors and the team of the church. and provide accountability. It's not control. And a lot of guys don't set this up because they don't want to be controlled. If you get the right people, you'll never be controlled. But if you get the right people, you'll always have a layer of accountability, and you'll want it one day. You'll want it one day because these, as you said, these people that fall from either Judas or Jezebel. That's what we preach. I preached that message before. People ignore Judas and people ignore Jezebel. You can't ignore pennies and petticoats. You got to make sure you take care of yourself, and you've got to make sure you have accountability. There's a certain limit I don't spend beyond the purview of the trustees, and that's on me, the senior pastor and the leader and the bishop of the church and the whole movement. So you got to have those mechanisms of accountability. Otherwise, you're exposing yourself to great liability. And accountability is never about control. It's always about protection. So that's a great point. And it's something I think we're going to help our folk with in the network more as we go forward. The legalities of all of this. I cannot tell you, I'm not exaggerating. I must have received 30, more than that probably. I'm trying to be very cautious and not be evangelistically embellishing as I speak. At least 30 messages from people who say, Bishop, what does covering look like? We want you to be a part of our covering. And we do that. And I don't get to do it as much now as I could have, or, they've got a lot going on. And I want to be a good overseer if I'm going to be a part of an oversight. And we do that for a bunch of churches. But we're going to we are developing. In my mind, I've been writing, how do we do this whole thing of oversight? And how do we do this whole thing of helping strengthening the ministries connected to us, strengthen the leaders, and provide layers not of control. We don't want to own nothing or boss anyone around, but what does healthy kingdom accountability look like? And people who run from accountability are suggesting they have something to hide. It's just the reality of it. And no one wants to give or connect to somebody who wants to hide something. So we could go on and on about it.
No, there's no doubt about that. And we do want to close this out with providing more services to you. Those of you that are in the network already, or those of you that are considering joining the network, services that Pastor Kevin, and this vision was his years ago. Some of you know the story. Started with 13 on a Zoom call. And we're not in numbers. I think the biggest thing that intimidates people is as things grow, they think it's not for them anymore. So again, we're talking about those churches that don't have staffs, the churches that don't have assistants and associates and all the different things. But one of the things that, I'm so thankful for Pastor Kevin in this moment, the bishop, as I call him, is the vision to provide that for churches. And some of you heard the announcement. I'm going to be doing that full time. That's going to be my job going forward. The church is my church. He's my bishop. He's my pastor. We're playing golf tomorrow, by the way. And I'm not going to trash talk you live right now. You don't want any. You can hit it further than I can.
Then you can point. I can hit it further than you can point.
But no, that's really what your vision is for that. So that's why I'm going to be moving over into that chair, and we've already started that because we announced that at the conference. But providing additional services and more time. You don't have time to do that, and as your schedule has grown, and then the babies come into the picture, and the churches and the campuses and all that's taking place. But I'm going to move over there and spend all of my time with the network folks.
Well, and I think that's going to, obviously, will enhance the network, and it'll give people an opportunity to, I think, absorb the wisdom that you've gained over all of these years, and the wisdom that our daily operation sort of has experienced here. I think you're able to help in broad and even more personalized ways. We've done it at a broad level. I was actually thinking and writing this morning before I came here in my office at home. I've been thinking about my week, and as I move forward in my life, I have been thinking about, I told you, I think I told you, I know I said it at Ruach one time, but several months ago, 2 months ago, I think maybe 8-10 weeks ago now, the Lord said to me, I'm jealous for 1 degree. I want everything aligned. I'm jealous for the 1 degree off. That's what he said to me. And I thought, what does that mean? But I've been thinking about what are the priorities in my life. Obviously, my wife and my children, and obviously my church that I pastor, and the network that God's called us to lead. And I've been looking at my week. How do I make appropriate investments into my week to reflect the values that I have? You know, there's a book, and I gave it to all of our staff. I bought it for all of our staff. It's the smallest book you've ever seen. It's this big, it's that thick. And it's called The Tyranny of the Urgent. And it talks about how the urgent things absorb the best of our time, and it sort of robs us of our focus. And I was thinking and writing down this morning what my weekly time allocation will be into the things that are important to me. And I'm not given to that kind of behavior. I'm not typically given to, okay, Mondays are going to be my church team days. I'll have big team meeting, but then I'll have breakout meetings, and then I'll have appointment meetings for people who need to talk. We'll do that on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm investing time in the school. I mean, it's 9 a.m. till probably 1 p.m. And then I thought about what I would do in the afternoons on Tuesdays, and then I shared this with you on Wednesdays. Wednesday till lunch or sometime thereafter, I'm going to invest in the network. You and I talking, you and I strategizing. On days we don't have to meet, I'm going to take Wednesdays and devote my time to writing or thinking about how do we take people in the network, their lives to the next level. And then Thursday, writing and sermon prep for Sunday. And Friday, I'm going to play golf. I'm going to shoot birds. I'm going, not these kind of birds, but like shoot pheasants.
Hunting.
I'll shoot pheasants.
Hunting with a gun.
Or something. I'll fish. I'll do something that I want. But Friday be a day with family. Friday be a day with that. And then Saturday is the Sabbath, and it's time I spend with the Lord, and I get ready for Sunday. And that's just been my mantra for 22 years. So I've been trying to think about, and I hope to share that with the network too, because I think, not really being a specialist, I'm not in time management. I'm not a specialist in time management. I recognize in this season of my life that if I don't prioritize my day will prioritize my life. And I don't want that. And so we're going to give more, not just effort, we've given a lot of effort, but more time and investment to the network than ever. And going forward in 2025, as we put our schedule together, these one days are going to reflect, obviously some of the invitations that we've received to go and minister. I'm not able to go and minister. Everybody, we've explained that before. Maybe it's good to explain it again, but we get more invitations than I could possibly feel. And I'm grateful and humbled by that. I just don't have the time or the sauce to go to every single place. It's tiring. It can wear you out. And I don't want to be away from the core of what my assignment is, and that's this church in this season. So we have to be very mindful of that. You help me with that. Rick helps me with that. The team's mindful of that. We try to keep everything on a big calendar and say this is not the best time to be gone, or this is the best time to be gone, or this is 3 or 4 weeks of vacation that you need to take a break and you can't go travel and preach during that. So we're trying to figure all that out. But here's my commitment is this. I know I'm called to be the pastor of a church, and I know I'm called to strengthen the body and to undergird the body and to love the body and to bring the body together to experience what we experienced for those several days of Ruach. It was like a big family reunion. Mm-hmm. It really was.
No doubt.
And I've actually embraced that. I want to see that happen more. And as we keep building the conference, I want it to be that. I want it to reflect that. The international pastors were here. It was just brilliant to me to see all of that. And I want it to feel like a celebration, a global celebration of what God's doing throughout the network during our conferences. And then the times we do one days, edification and impartation and strength and comfort. And so we're excited about what God's doing, and I'm very pumped about you being, directing the day-to-day of this. It's going to take it to the next level.
Well, and I want to close with this. I did a breakout on balance, the battle for balance, and he just spoke about his week. So you just heard what the bishop's week looked like. That's one of the questions we get from you guys all the time. What does the bishop? That's what it is. But the last thing that we talked about in my breakout session, and I want you to do a moment of self-reflection and self-evaluation. I'm an analytical addict, so I'm always evaluating. But ask yourself these questions, the most simple questions in your life. Number one, does me leading a church make me a better spouse? Does me leading a church make me a better parent?
Wow.
Think about that. Are you a better parent? Does the church take you away from your role as a husband or a wife? Does the church take you away from being a great parent? Because, I mean, what is the church worth? What are the people worth if you're not pouring into your own children?
Right.
If you're not spending time with your spouse? Does it make you a better friend? Do you have friends? I had one guy come up to me afterwards and said, I got no friends. So that you're out of balance. And the last thing, does leading a church make you a better Christian? Are you irritable all the time? Are you angry all the time? Are you worried all the time? Or are you experiencing the joy of the Lord? And are you sharing that? When you walk in the room, does it get darker or lighter? Those are the things that I would ask you in this moment. And I think PK just did a great job of expressing how his week looks. But we're going to close this session out. Pastor, Bishop, long drive champion, I'm still going to win.
I'm giving it all I got.
I'm still going to win. You can drive me all you want, but
it's
I'm
not
still
how you
gonna
drive, it's how you ride.
Hey, it's a short game.
Yeah.
It's a short game.
Hey, get registered for Wild Ones.
Yes.
And if you're coming to Ruach Conference, it's already over halfway sold out for next year. So I would just say get in.
Hey, breath and bones.
Love you.
We're out.
We're out.